Alright, so let's see. Alright, let's go. We're gonna get going. Alright, peace and light, family. Let me go ahead and kill the music. See if we be on time. Alright. So I'd like to welcome you to Waternomics. Alright. This is where we combine actually water and economics. We bring these two things combined together. Water gives you a lot of different points of views, perspectives on life, and essentially leading to better health, right? Because we want to be holistically healthy in the long run. So a big part of this is basically identifying self and where we at, basically, right? So we're going to identify self, knowing where we're at in time and space, right? And then we're going to identify the problem. Which is energy. Everything is energy. So basically, we're talking about a lot of times disease and sickness builds up within our body because we have stagnated energy, which means like stagnated water. When it's not able to move through currents or not able to move through the body, it stagnates, and basically all material, so we're talking like tumors and so forth, they hold and would store energy within it. And this is what makes it very toxic and acidic for the body. Okay, so before we really kind of dive into that aspect, I want you to understand exactly who and where we're at in time and space. Okay, so identity of self. All right, so each one of us are a collection of many different elements, right, that we're made up of. Okay, so just like an astral projection, all right, kind of think of Doctor Strange if you're familiar with Marvel. And just kind of projecting yourself outside your body. We're living cells that are operating and functioning, manufacturing and producing materials within this planet, right? This Earth body. All right. So as a kind of an outer body experiment, right? We can actually say we're living cells within the body, of course, of the Creator. And if we look up, that's literally the stars, the sun, the moon. That's literally the mind of God, right? To which we're actually going to, which we're looking to rise, right? So the connection is our body is 70% water, our earth is 70% water, right? And as above, so below. So we have about 85% water in our head, right? Because we already know, just like if you follow the Bible and if you believe in it, you know, you understand that as above, so below. So the Lord separated the two waters. So you have waters within the cell of your body, and you have water on the outside of your cell, which is very important because when we get into economics, you're going to understand that that's intercourse, that's commerce. Commerce is intercourse, all right? So that's where that actually comes into play. And you'll understand that how our bodies of land, right, actually communicate with one another, okay? So very important because currency flows through currents in the sea, which moves energy. All right. So in order for us to build anything, we must have a basic universal understanding of what we are in relationship to the science of mind and body in space. So we're living organisms in the body of Earth, looking up at the sun and stars as the universal mind of God. The sun is believed and represented for me to understand to be the pineal gland, okay? So we have a understanding of what the pineal gland is, right? It's light sensitive, right? So it regulates your sleep-wake cycle, all right? Your circadian clock, all right? So what that does for the body, when your pineal and that light hits your eyes and it goes through your photoreceptors and it bings into that third ventricle of your brain, it wakes up every living cell within your body, and it wakes them up and it tells, hey, look, it's time to get up. It's time to go to work. Kind of like a rooster that crows before the sun actually rises. Your body knows when it's time to wake up. So a lot of times what we do, we roll over or we keep our blinds closed and so forth so that we can, not actually get up and get on with our day. But it's time to operate. So as living cells, that's what that represents for us, okay? So, just following down. All right. Let's see. So what we are atoms. Okay. So we're atoms of elements from the earth, organized organic molecules that are structured cells beings that join together to form tissues, creating a community of family of different organs, which we call society. All right, and I will be writing this because I do a lot of blogging, so you would be able to follow these along. But understanding that we're atoms, all right? So on a scientific level and as far as physics is concerned, we're atoms. Each and every one of us are atoms, okay? Those atoms then join together and make covalent bonds. So in order to get a molecule of water, you add an oxygen and two hydrogen, which is a covalent bond that gives you a molecule. So when you add atoms together, you get molecules through shared electrons, which we'll get into a little bit later. All right, so when you share electrons, you create a covalent bond. All right, this relationship can be determined in your household with co-relationships, co-workers. Anytime you're sharing something, you have a co-dependency upon something, right? This is how we build. So this is important as far as organizing in the body, right? Because now, once you get atoms, then you get molecules. Those molecules then form macromolecules. Those macromolecules form together to create organelles. Organelles create cells. Cells create tissues. Tissues create organs. And then they communicate together to give you an organ system, all right, which gives you an organism, which you see before you did that. All right, so why is this very important? Is that our world, right? This is how we attract things to us, right? Through magnetism. All right, so here's where economics and commerce comes into play. Each organ in the body, each organ is a mass body of land surrounded by water. So if you think about it, I don't know if you could really see it behind it, but each body of land is actually represented as an organ, okay, within the body. So our body is made up of stardust, all right? So what the stars are made out of literally consists of what we're made out of. You're talking about 6 carbon, oxygen, you're talking about hydrogen, you know, all these different components that makes up a star, we're literally makes us up, right? So understanding that aspect of it, you understand the representation of where the Lord makes us from the soil, right? In order to make anything, any body, you would make it from the inside out, not the outside in. So you won't make the skin and all these different types of things first. You would make the organs, which you would then form together and put together. And in order for it to hold together, you would need what? Water, right? So water holds all these different things that we're actually made to form us. So we're made and formed from different aspects of the earth, which we need to actually consume and hydrate, you know, of course, in order to bring this back into flow. So, let's see. So, in order for them to work together, they need organ systems to trade energy, right? So, when we're talking about bodies of water that surrounds every organ is surrounded by its own environment, which is water that surrounds it, right? And now, in order for that organ to communicate with another organ, right, it must basically communicate through a system, right? So this is how we communicate through different countries, right, is through the waterways, which is commerce. Commerce represents intercourse, once again, like I said, through the waves, through the water. So it's currency exchange. So what's happening is that when you're blocked and your system is blocked or is taxed and so forth, you're not able to get that flow of currency, which needs to flow. So currencies move in closed circuits. This is basically electricity, right? So when you start talking about electricity, electrons, which I told you before, which is what we share back and forth, right? It goes through a closed circuit. That closed circuit actually helps to generate power and electricity within your home. If you have an open circuit, and I see my mom is on here, she knows a lot about circuits and so forth. If it's an open circuit, then it won't work, right? You need to close circuit in order to generate power and electricity. So then our body has to have a constant flow of electricity to move through it, which is hydroelectricity. So the reason why that makes that important is because every molecule of water has its own potential energy. All right, we call it internal potential energy. Okay, so We look at water as one big fluid that's moved back and forth, but there are little molecules in water that actually constantly move. And because they constantly move, they possess energy within it. So anytime energy, like whatever you make, water goes into whatever we make. So all matter, material matter, leaves, holds water and retains water. Okay, when you burn it, you release energy. Okay, so this is why we burn food. This is why we're tied into different types of systems, because we're tied into the material of that system, just like our organs, right? Our organs are a mass, all right? And because it is a mass, we're tied into that system, right? That operates our body. Each one of us are part of a different system, okay? So with that being said, understanding that, all right, if we're going to communicate with one another, we have to understand our role in time and space in which you occupying as far as the totality or the wholeness of the body. All right, so I'm gonna give you an example. For me, I am a water guy. I move water and distribute water throughout my community, right? So I bring water. So basically, within the body, I'm a water distributor, right? Distributing resources to many different parts of the body. Why is that important? Because water carries many different things. Water carries minerals. Water carries electricity, once again, like I said, and energy. All right? That water literally goes inside your mitochondria of your cell, which is the powerhouse of this cell. All right? So what's happening is we're dehydrated, and because we're dehydrated, the body is not able to produce and reproduce, okay, and go through these different functions, right? And we're short-circuiting ourselves because it's not a connection, all right? Because we're stagnated. Stress causes dehydration. Dehydration causes further stress. So what that does is leaves blocks in our system. And as you continue to block the system, you continue to stagnate the energy, and then that's where you end up getting tumors at, right? So the body is literally trying to save the body, right, by putting that energy and putting that thing into a spot until it's able to be able to flow, right, and able to be removed from the body. But if it lets it flow, it becomes toxic, right? So when I told you that mitochondria, what happens is, let me see if I can show you right here. We drink water, goes in through our system, all right? As water goes in through the system, it goes and it becomes absorbed into our intestines, all right? As water is absorbed into our intestines, right, it has to get into the cell. It goes into our bloodstream, right, and into the cells, okay? Now, we need sugar, all right, to actually help to get inside the cell. Salt, those different types of things. Different cells have different accessibilities to actually get nutrients inside of them. So you have to have oxygen present in order for it to get inside the cell. If there's no oxygen, that's how you get lactic acid that builds up, right? So when you're working out and you're exercising and your muscles start to get tight, right, that's lactic acid because your body is actually needing more oxygen, okay? So this is why it's important to learn your breathing, right? This is actually called, through this whole process, cell respiration, okay? So through this process, once you get in and you have oxygen present, then you're able to get this glucose broken down into pyruvate, which goes inside this mitochondria of the cell. So now it goes in what's called a cycle, all right? Now this cycle, I told you, everything has cycles, and we're going to get more into this as we get into engineering, right? But now this cycle is called the Krebs cycle, right? Which is a little circle that goes around and it breaks up, basically, the electrons that actually come in here, which produces a little bit of energy. Now, this right here is very important. Why? Because it's called the citric acid cycle. All right, so which means it breaks down matter. All matter leaves an ash within inside the body. Okay, so this ash right here actually lets you know whether or not it's toxic. Okay, so when you consume a lemon and that citric acid cycle breaks down that lemon, once you consume it, it leaves an alkaline ash. All right, most food that we eat, whether if it's meat or so forth like that, leaves an acidic ash. So this acidic ash builds up within inside this matrix. All right, when it builds up within this matrix, it causes problems within here, basically because now you have a less flow of oxygen inside the body, right? So electrons actually pass and transport to what's called the electron transport chain. As it goes through this electron transport chain, it actually can come out and produce a molecule of water. All right, and this is literally through the passing of electrons. Very, one of the reasons why it's important, because now we said, what we said was that this goes through an electron transport chain and passes out a molecule of water. So anytime it goes through a chain reaction, this is generating electricity within the body, which helps the certain specific organs to actually generate and regroup to heal itself. This is why it's important for us to heal ourselves. All right. So this is happening inside the body, and as it's happening inside the body, it's represented on the outside of our body. I don't know if we got any questions.
Not yet. Not yet.
Okay. So, let's see where we at. All right. So, okay. So, with that being said, what's happening when we drink water and we consume water that has been already through a water treatment facility, we're getting a less flow of energy into our body. And you're saying, well, how does that work really, right? So energy, like I told you before, it has potential energy in the clouds. When it rains, it becomes kinetic, okay? If it's trapped into the mountains, it's still potential energy, right? Because it's frozen. Anytime it runs, it becomes kinetic. So now, when you have water pumps that pump water against the flow of gravity, you actually have friction that is causing water to move against its natural flow. So when the water is moving against its natural flow, it's actually losing energy. All right. So as it's losing energy and going through these pipes and these turns, you're actually, by the time it comes out your water faucet, you've lost a lot of energy out of that water, and which makes your water stagnated, dead, not living water. Okay, because there's no energy possessing inside of it. So when we talk about spring water, where we get our water from is a artesian well, right? This natural artesian spring. So you have potential energy within an aquifer, and what it does is pushes the water up, which comes out through like a geyser or so forth, right? That's what an artesian well is. So the energy pushes the water freely, all right, without pumps above ground. So you're talking about potential energy. Now you get that piped up and you get that to go through a system basically and into your bottle. That's what you're drinking. That's why your water is more high, is giving you more energy, all right, based on the process. Because many of our systems and our wastewater treatment facilities don't understand that aspect of it. And when we, consume bottled water that actually comes from, water treatment plants, because it's literally a cycle. After you pee it out, they break it down, they add, bacteria, they filter it, clean it, all this different stuff, right? And then they put it back into your local waterways, which then is repumped back up again and going back. So it's literally a cycle that it goes through. What happens a lot of times, the more of these that they put out and that it doesn't go through a natural filtration, which is the world, the earth, and because we try to speed up everything, it's actually taking away from our sources. And the reason be it, right, is because we're highly, highly active. So we have to slow down, right? And the speed of the economy is actually causing that, because understanding the more you work, the more you go, the faster you go, to pump out work, you actually require more food and resources. So you're literally draining the resources. It's not about the amount of people that's on this earth. It's more so about how hard that we're working, and essentially that is draining the resources. And because that is being drained, your body is requiring more. And once it requires more, it's not going through the full process, and we're literally shortchanging ourselves in energy. All right. And that's mainly what this economic system is really tied into, because when you start basically like through this section right here, what we're talking about repumping water back into it, this is artificial. All right. So when you start making artificial products and you're creating energy, basically just like the money system. And once you start creating it, something like that, then you start to get the byproducts of these things, right? And these byproduct things, because we're all connected, it starts to come out in our body and we start to feel it. So it looks like, you know, inner city, you know, in our community with, you know, broken glass, cracked sidewalks, broken down buildings, you know, drug infested areas. All right, so then you translate that inside the body. Inside the body, that looks like, you know, acidic waste stored into the body, not being able to exit the body. You're not hydrating properly, so it's stored in there. One of the ways you build up fat is because the body is literally trying to preserve your organs from being deteriorated, right? So what it does is stores the acidity into that fat. So your fat acts as a buffer, a buffering system for your organs. It's literally trying to save your life. Your body's always trying to save your life, all right? It's always working towards balance. And that's one of the reasons. So, like, I got into alkaline water, but not really understanding the full dynamics of saying, okay, this is all you need for life. Is much more than that, because your body works between the oxygen that you breathe, right, and your kidneys are the main things that balances the acidity levels within your body. Okay, so you don't really have much control in that as far as regulating that, because your body naturally regulates that. If it was up to us, we'd all be dead tomorrow, because the body actually does that naturally. All right, now we're supposed to be able to help it so that it doesn't take some of the stress off. So we work together in addition to that, so that, you know, it takes the stress off of the body, but they're buffering systems, right? So it gives us a little bit of relief, right, as we go through this. So understand that fat is there to help you. And when we're breathing and all that stuff, that means that we're very acidic because we're breathing very hard, right? The body needs oxygen. It needs water within it so that it can flush some of that toxicity. When people drink that alkaline water, then they start to, you know, move, their bowels start to move a lot easier. You know, their body is really trying to dump a lot of that waste out of their system, right? And it's trying to flush it out. So that's all about moving energy, right? When the water and the cells are hydrated properly, the body will function properly and be able to do exactly what it needs to do as energy is moving through it back and forth. All right. But yeah, that's pretty much it, though. I don't know, that's at almost 30 minutes. But that's identifying self, identifying the problem, right? And we're going to start working on organizing the solution for us all basically to work together so that we can actually reduce the amount of stress that we actually go through. A lot of us go through many different types of stresses in our life and don't have anyone to share that stress with, which causes, you know, mental health. And once you break down the mind, you break down the body, and everything becomes, you know, basically a chain reaction, you know, within our society. You know, everything that happens within the body happens on the outside, and it's just replicated on and on through generations. And it's literally deteriorating the next generation. Just like we talk about economy now and the inflation and all the money that's being pumped into the economy. If you think about it, you know, those are taxes that the next generation is going to have to take up for, right? So as we continue to utilize understanding that, yes, money is energy and not used properly, you know, which the government fails to do a lot of times, right? Because, you know, we're $1 trillion in debt, you know what I mean, in a sense, and we have to figure out, well, where's all this coming from? And it's coming from fiat currency. You know, as you continue, and Americans are not, you know, me, myself included, right, are not using it properly because we don't understand exactly where this money is really coming from, and you're pumping it and it's not being allocated properly. Well, you continue to have debt that increases on to our next generation. So while we're always thinking and planning of the now, the future pays the debt for what we actually go through now. You know, so it's whether or not we take the sacrifice now, you know, so that they don't have to pay for it later. You know, eventually, you know, what happens to one, because we're a group of cells, we're a group of family, we all work together as one, and we're all connected. Because we're all connected, we all pay the price. which is cancer in a society, which is all these different things that happens, mental health issues, all these things are connected because, the group as a whole believes in a certain thing, and when we believe in it as a whole, we all pay the price, even if you don't, so got to change the narrative, got to change the thought process, got to change the mindset, and, literally we'll die off, but the next generation has to grow up with that mindset already intact, already in place in order for that change to actually happen and occur. So, say kick the truth to the young black youth. All right, so thank y'all for tuning in to Waternomics. We're going to talk more about it. Family Springs is actually creating a system where we're actually going to be able to use water as a type of currency, right, to get what we need, to get what we want, rather. So we'll be able to use our resources, such as water, something that we need to be able to get things like we want, like, shoes, like clothes, jewelry, different types of things like that. We'll have on our website that you can actually go in and check out on our website, because, like I said, if we reverse the thinking, right, and we reverse and say, okay, well, we don't need all the jury in order to get this, well, we have to work so hard to obtain this amount of money in order to get these different types of things. Well, if we put the health first, right, and then you're able to get that, then you're not literally chasing the cheese, you're chasing the health in order to get those things that you want. So then ultimately you become more healthier. And, that's mainly, why this actually works. As for me, like I said, I'm putting a lot of things out on our website, connected to a lot of different people. So we'll be adding different things, and you can use your water credit. So every time you buy water and you purchase water, you will be able to use that credit to actually buy it. It's not adding no additional cash. It's just straight credit. So kind of think of it as Chuck E. Cheese, right? You go into Chuck E. Cheese, you become a part of this system when you turn your dollars into tokens, all right? So we have a system that works for us, only strictly for small businesses. So this is what we're working on. This is what we're working with. And we have a lot of different opportunities out there specifically for us. All right, so peace and love. Stay balanced. The fight continues inside the body and out. It's Family Springs, the Alkaline Man.
They just lost sound.
They lost sound?
No, they just lost it.
Okay.
That's so good. My question was answered.
Huh? Your question wasn't answered?
I said it was answered.
You interrupt me.
No, because I didn't think it was a good time to ask the question, and then I was just kind of like, this is gonna go on. Like, this is a series, so because of that, there may be a better time to ask that specific question that I asked you on Saturday. However, you answered it in so many words towards the end, and just thinking about the connection and understanding that certain things that we do now that the later generations will pay for unless it's like corrected at this point. So it's kind of like, okay, but I understand in a theoretical sense at this point why it's still meaningful for me to make the purchase. However, at some other live, if I feel the need, I will ask the question.
Oh, okay.
Directly.
Okay.
But you were flowing good, and I was watching everybody. You got several hearts and all that other kind of stuff. And Christina had she was on, so she was like right on to that point, and then she was like, "That's right," So.
Oh, what part? And that's why I wanted to be closer so I could actually see and be able to respond to and know.
But it's like your voice said, you too tall. You can't be right up on it. However, the only thing is the picture, we would have been able to see it better. But it's not that bad. You would have been able to see it better.
What if it was what?
Closer.
If it was closer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But it wasn't so bad because you could still make out the body. Uh-huh. You could still make it out just as the general sense, and because you kept moving as you were showing the world and going to like the water source and through the process and stuff, like you could see it. But yeah, next time we'll definitely make sure it's closer, especially with you being seated the whole time.
Okay.
And then
I
probably
should've
putting
got
it
up.
so you can see both, because you
should've
couldn't
got
see
up.
that one at all. So when you had
This
pointed
one?
to that earlier on, yeah, you couldn't see that one at all. But you only pointed to that.
Oh,
one
you know
time.
what? And I'm looking here, and I probably should have been looking right.
Well,
Oh, I don't know. I
mean,
had my iPhone. I guess, yeah. So, yeah.
you were looking down a lot, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you were looking at the screen, but you, like, you know, here and there, like when you're referencing stuff, and then you're like kind of turned away from it when you're pointing to stuff. So that's, I mean, that's the least of a big deal. I just want to make sure that people can see. Excuse me, I'm not a producer. Okay, so I just want to make sure.
No, but I need feedback. So that's why I'm trying to, you know, because I want to build off of it.
No, yeah, but you were good. So, I mean, obviously, that's like, you have so much information. I'm just like blown away because she was a whole entire science class. Yeah, if you need help with moderating it next time, I do not mind helping you. Because that gave me an opportunity so I could actually see the live as when it happens, as opposed to trying to catch live later on, because I'm terrible about it, because I don't ever be on.
Me too. And I know how other people, like, I don't be, you know, somebody live, I'll be in the middle. Everybody be in their own little world, so I get that. And I do have a lot, and that's one of the reasons why I got to get it. Like, I've been working on this, like, and been drawing and stuff.
I love the drawing.
A minute, but I had to do it so it made sense to me, right? So, and, like, this is literally...
Who drew it for you?
I did.
No, you didn't.
Yeah.
You know how to draw.
Yeah, somewhat. Yeah, I drew
That's
it.
pretty good. That's a pretty good drawing.
Yeah, I mean, that I outlined the body, but yeah, I mean, I just still draw it. That's all freehand though. But yeah, so it makes sense, and then I can draw the connection, and other people can understand the connection.
Yeah, no, it was really, really good, and now I'm that much more impressed knowing that you drew that. That's kind of crazy. But no, really, really good, and it was good that you had like notes so you knew where to go in the conversation, even without questions coming in, and it still all made sense.
Okay, that's my.
It's
because
definitely science,
I'd be
though.
worried about, you know what I mean, because like I can get more in, and I thought I was gonna get more in deep into certain aspects of it, but I didn't.
No, you didn't need to.
I didn't.
No, you need to stretch it out. It's science.
Yeah.
It's a whole science class. I'm talking about, like, I actually, and I mean, I might be a little dense, and I'm not, and I'm actually really smart, but at the same time, I was like, okay, I was like, this is a whole breakdown, but that's how, I don't know, that's how it is, I feel like every time that I hear you talk about water, because even as you were saying, you had started with the organelles, and you were, like, going through, I was just like, oh snap! Like I thought I knew I thought you were gonna actually get more into the society aspect at that point, because I was just hearing the word organizations and organized for, like, as you were saying all that, and so I was like, okay, I'm making all these connections before you continue, and so I was like, okay, stop doing that so you can make sure that you're, you know, fully engrossed. But I felt like that's why your speed was right for what you talked about without going any deeper at this point, because it's already deep. It's already a lot of information.
Yeah.
It's already science.
And I was literally supposed to keep going actually on what you were talking about.
I know, but spread it out. It's okay, make it the series.
But not what I'm saying, because I actually went into what the problem was. And I kind of touched on addressing the problem, but this was really supposed to be more so on identity of self. So when you was talking about organizing and organization, society, and all those different things, it was mainly that connection. But I kind of blew past that a little quicker than I actually realized with the, you know, representation of bodies of land and bodies of organisms, and like every organ is literally a business into itself. So we have multiple different businesses, you know, that we need to actually put them together, you know, and so forth. But
it was kind of like an overview, and then if you take time, because I'm sure that the material per, especially as you just said it to me, like if you were just doing the body and you were breaking that down and talking about the business and how each of it functions and blah blah blah, that already is like a half an hour. So because of that, I personally think you did real good in pacing it and the amount of information that you gave and keeping up with your notes as you were going through. And now, because of how you wrapped it up and you were like, yeah, we're going to get more into the economics or whatever, like you can go back and have another class and go into, it deeper and be like, I don't know who checked out the last time, but, so now we're going to talk about this. It won't be like repetitive. It'll be like a whole nother piece of information. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, and I literally have it all written. Like it's on the website and it's on the blog. So like a lot of that stuff, I'm actually going to kind of go through that and explaining that, and then people can literally follow along. So like, and then I have everything connected on the website. So it's literally from link to link. So I try to make it as simplistic as possible.
That's crazy. No, it's I'm blown away. This is great.
I appreciate it all.
And
so like I need to